In Paris, the immigration status of hundreds of thousands of people in America is now in limbo. That's after a federal judge in Texas put a halt on the Deferred Action for Child Arrivals immigration policy, or DACA, on Friday. Under DACA, individuals brought to America as children are allowed to avoid deportation and work through 2-year renewable periods. DACA was signed by President Barack Obama in 2012 as a presidential memorandum. District Court Judge Andrew Hanen referenced the process in which the policy was established in ruling it unconstitutional. Joining us are Laura Reese, Senior Research Fellow for Homeland Security at the Heritage Foundation. It's a conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. And Vanessa Esparza-Lopez, Managing Partner of the National Immigrant Justice Center, which is affiliated with the anti-poverty organization Heartland Alliance here in Chicago. Welcome both of you to Chicago tonight. Vanessa Esparza-Lopez, let's start with you, please. What was your reaction to this news on Friday, and what have you been hearing from your clients, especially those who are dreamers?
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Before we get to that, I just want to remind your viewers who is at the center of these legal and political battles. These are community members. These are our neighbors, our loved ones, our coworkers. And so it's important not to lose sight of that when we're talking about what's going on with this ruling. But in general, there's frustration that we hear from our clients, confusion with the differing district court decisions that have come out in the recent, just this past Friday, and then before that in December, and disappointment definitely from our clients.
And Laura Reese, what was the reasoning for the judge's ruling on this part of the DACA program?
Sure. So the judge ruled that the DACA program is illegal because it is the authority of Congress to establish immigration laws, including providing immigration benefits for whatever population. And in this case, it was the Secretary of Homeland Security, by signing a memo, who created the program and did not even follow the Administrative Procedures Act to give notice to the public and then allow for public comment. But it's Congress who has the authority, and therefore the judge ruled it unconstitutional.
To that end, you just talked about it a little bit, but how does the rulemaking process differ from obviously an executive order like the one President Obama signed in 2012 that established DACA?
Well, it is Congress has the authority to grant benefits, and so including work authorization, which is part of the DACA benefit. So even if the administration files a rule to provide this benefit, it's Congress that has the authority. And Congress has considered such legislation many times over the years, but has failed to pass such a bill, which is why President Obama had Secretary Napolitano go ahead and stand up the program via memo.
Vanessa, your organization represents people within the DACA program who've received that status. What does the application and the renewal process entail?
Before that, if I could just respond with regards to Judge Hanen's ruling. No one's disputing that Congress has the authority to pass laws, but we still feel that the judge's ruling was erroneous. The fact is that our U.S. immigration laws provide vast authority to the executive branch in how it enforces the immigration laws. So it can choose to not detain or deport certain community members. And it could also provide affirmative relief programs in the exercise of individualized discretion like the DACA program does. Now, in terms of the DACA process itself, there's certainly a lot of form filling, a lot of documentation that goes along to support the applicant's eligibility. And once filed, the individual does go through an extensive background check, after which point the agency does make an individualized determination in the exercise of prosecutorial discretion, whether or not to grant the benefit to that individual.
So, Laura Reese, of course, we're talking about young people here who, in many cases, were brought here as children and have fully grown up in this country up to this point. Why shouldn't their immigration status be protected, or is it just a matter of how this particular program was implemented?
Well, in addition to how the program was implemented, rewarding illegal immigration is bad policy because it begets more illegal immigration. And we're seeing that play out every day right now with the border crisis. Just this year, 95,000 unaccompanied alien children have come to the border and have been let in. And this administration continues to say, if you come as an unaccompanied child, we will let you in, which is incentivizing and encouraging more parents to put their children into the hands of traffickers and bring them to the US. It's very dangerous, and these traffickers have no regard for human life. So it's bad policy and it's dangerous. Americans have a very generous legal immigration system, but we want an orderly system and we value life. So the administration should be encouraging lawful immigration, not encouraging people to come unlawfully.
Vanessa, we know that DACA has been legally challenged numerous times by the Trump administration, but it was in late 2020 that the Supreme Court called the former president's efforts to end the program, quote, arbitrary and capricious. Would you say that's a fair assessment? Because additionally, Congress has, as Laura mentioned, has failed to pass this kind of legislation. What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that the Congress really needs to get its act together now. President Biden and Congress have the opportunity to pass through the resolution package that is in Congress right now. They have the opportunity to provide lawful status to not just DACA recipients, but to as a vast amount of people as possible. We're talking about TPS recipients, we're talking about farm workers, essential workers. And the fact is that President Obama was forced to, go through and enact DACA because Congress was not getting its act together and passing anything at that point. We're nearly 10 years later, next June will be the 10th anniversary of DACA, and we still don't have a resolution. So, we can debate, the intricacies of Judge Hannon's ruling, but I think we can all agree that it's time for Congress to do its job and pass a package.
Laura,
I also just did one more point.
Well, sorry, we're almost out of time, and I wanted to get
Sure.
Laura in. Lastly, on that same point, what are your projections for DACA? Several members of Congress are talking about immigration reform as part of budget reconciliation. What do you see happening next in about 30 seconds?
So immigration is not infrastructure, and the Democrats in Congress should not be trying to jam through a bill that they can't get 60 votes for using a budget reconciliation tactic because they only need 51 votes. The American people do not want more illegal immigration. They want a lawful system, and they want that respected. And no one wants that more than immigrants who have come themselves lawfully.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to Vanessa Esparza Lopez and Laura Reese for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.